Imagine this. You're walking through your kitchen. You reach for a knife, and in one careless second, the blade slips and cuts deep into your hand. Blood everywhere. Your heart racing. But you already know exactly what to do. You rush to the sink. You grab a clean cloth. You pull out antiseptic. A bandage. Maybe even a tube of antibiotic cream sitting quietly in your medicine cabinet. Within minutes, the crisis is over. You barely think about it again. Now hold that image in your mind, and then ask yourself something strange. What would you have done 30,000 years ago? No sink, no soap, no pharmacy, no hospital waiting a short drive away. Just you, your bleeding hand, and a world full of infection waiting to finish what the wound started. In that world, a cut wasn't a small accident. It was a countdown. A race between your body and the invisible things trying to kill you. And yet, somehow, your ancestors survived. Not just once, not just by accident, but generation after generation for hundreds of thousands of years in forests, on frozen plains, in caves and coastlines with nothing but their bare hands and whatever grew around them. So how did they do it? How did ancient humans treat wounds when the modern world hadn't been invented yet? The answer is far stranger, far older, and far more clever than most people realize. And by the end of this video, you'll never look at a scraped knee the same way again, because your body right now still remembers what they did. Let's start with something surprising. Scientists studying ancient skeletons keep finding the same puzzling thing. Bones that should belong to dead people. Skulls with holes. Ribs snapped in half. Legs shattered in ways that would send a modern person straight into surgery. And yet these bones tell a different story. They healed. Slowly, crookedly. But they healed. Which means the person survived long enough for the body to knit itself back together. That's not luck. That's care. Somebody cleaned that wound. Somebody kept that person warm. Somebody brought them food while they couldn't hunt. Somebody knew what to do, but here's where the story becomes interesting. Ancient humans didn't just survive wounds. In some cases, they healed from injuries that would challenge a modern emergency room. And they did it without knowing what bacteria was, without understanding germs, without any concept of what we now call medicine. So how? The answer begins with the forest itself. Picture a small group of early humans, maybe 40,000 years ago, moving through a landscape that most of us would find terrifying. Every step through tall grass could hide a snake. Every branch could snap and slice. Every hunt could end with a horn or a claw in the wrong place. Injuries weren't rare events in the ancient world. They were part of daily life, and because they were part of daily life, ancient humans became experts at treating them. Not through books, not through schools, but through something older and quieter: observation, trial, memory, passed from parent to child around thousands of campfires across countless generations. They watched. They noticed which leaves stopped bleeding when pressed against a cut. They noticed which barks reduced swelling, which mosses seemed to keep wounds from turning bad, which mushrooms, chewed and pressed onto broken skin, made the pain fade. What looks like magic to us today was, to them, careful science done without the word for it. And here's the part that will surprise you. Modern researchers have tested many of these ancient remedies. And a shocking number of them actually work. Take sphagnum moss, for example. To your eye, it looks like nothing special. Soft, green, growing in damp places across cold parts of the world. But this simple plant is naturally absorbent, mildly acidic, and contains compounds that slow the growth of bacteria. Ancient humans figured out, somehow, that packing a wound with this moss kept it cleaner and helped it heal. Thousands of years later, during World War I, doctors ran out of cotton bandages and started using the exact same moss on soldiers. It worked. It saved lives. Your ancestors weren't guessing. They were remembering, but moss was only one tool in a much larger toolbox. And this is where the story deepens. Consider honey. Sticky, sweet, sitting in nearly every kitchen. To us, it's just food. To ancient humans, it was one of the most powerful medicines on Earth. They didn't know it, but honey has natural antibacterial properties. Its high sugar content pulls moisture out of bacteria. Its slight acidity slows infection, and it forms a protective seal over open wounds. Ancient Egyptian texts, some of the oldest medical writings ever discovered, describe using honey on wounds nearly 4,000 years ago. But the practice is far older than the Egyptians. It stretches back into prehistory, whispered from generation to generation. Even more incredible, modern hospitals today still use medical-grade honey for wounds that refuse to heal. What ancient humans discovered in the wilderness has come full circle into the operating rooms of the 21st century. But here's where everything changes. Because treating a wound wasn't just about plants and honey. Ancient humans understood something that took modern science a very long time to prove: Clean matters. There's a common myth that ancient humans were dirty, that they lived in filth, that they didn't understand cleanliness. But archaeology tells a very different story. Ancient humans washed in rivers, in streams, in water heated over fire. They cleaned their tools, they cleaned their food. And when someone got hurt, one of the first things they did was rinse the wound. Sometimes with water, sometimes with fluids from certain plants that we now know contain natural disinfectants. They didn't know why it worked, but they knew it worked. Then came fire. And fire changed everything. Imagine a deep wound. Bleeding won't stop. In the modern world, you'd get stitches. In the ancient world, ancient healers had a different answer. They used heat, a hot stone, a heated blade of flint, sometimes the flat side of a burning stick. Pressed carefully against a bleeding wound, the heat sealed the blood vessels shut. The pain must have been terrible. But the alternative was death by blood loss. This ancient technique, called cauterization, still exists in modern medicine. Surgeons today use electric tools that do exactly the same thing. Different tool, same idea, same life-saving logic. Your ancestors were performing surgery without ever calling it surgery. But surgery in the ancient world went further than most people imagine. Much further. Archaeologists have found human skulls, some over 10,000 years old, with perfectly drilled holes in them. Round, careful, clearly done on purpose. And here's the truly astonishing part. Many of these skulls show signs of healing around the hole, which means the person didn't just survive the procedure. They lived for months, sometimes for years after. This procedure has a name, trepanation. And nobody knows exactly why ancient humans did it. Some researchers believe it was used to relieve pressure after head injuries. Others believe it was done for spiritual reasons. But the fact remains, ancient humans were performing operations on the human skull with stone tools in a world without anesthesia. And somehow patients survived. Let that sink in for a moment. Your ancestors tens of thousands of years ago were opening human skulls and keeping people alive afterward. Without hospitals, without doctors as we know them. Without anything but experience, observation, and a deep understanding of the human body earned over countless generations. But not every wound needed a stone tool or a burning flame. Most everyday injuries were treated with something simpler. Something ancient humans understood better than we do today. Time and community. Here's something modern life often forgets. When you get hurt, your body heals faster when you're safe, when you feel calm, when someone is caring for you. It's not just psychological. Stress hormones actually slow the healing process. When your ancestors were injured, they weren't alone. Their tribes surrounded them, fed them, kept them warm at night, watched over them while they slept. This wasn't kindness for its own sake. It was survival strategy. A wounded tribe member who healed was still a hunter, still a mother, still someone who could help the group survive. So the tribe invested in their healing. This is one of the deepest reasons humans became the most social species on Earth. Not because we simply enjoyed each other's company, but because caring for the wounded made everyone more likely to live. And your brain still remembers this. When you're sick, you crave the presence of someone you love. When you're hurt, you feel more pain when you're alone. When someone comforts you, your body actually heals faster. Studies today confirm what your ancestors already knew. The tribe was medicine, and it still is, but there's another layer to this story. One that scientists are only beginning to understand. The human body itself is an ancient healer. Right now, without you thinking about it, your body is running dozens of automatic processes designed for one purpose: keeping you alive when you're wounded. The moment your skin breaks, platelets rush to the site. Blood begins to clot. Immune cells swarm to the injury. New tissue starts forming within hours. It's a system so complex that modern science still hasn't fully mapped it. And this system didn't appear yesterday. It's the product of millions of years of evolution. Ancient humans didn't have modern medicine. But they had this, a body already engineered by evolution to survive wounds that most other animals couldn't recover from. Their job wasn't to heal the wound. Their job was to help their body do what it already knew how to do. Keep it clean, keep it covered, keep it still, keep the person calm and fed. The healing itself was ancient long before humans existed. And this leads to one of the most fascinating discoveries in modern anthropology. When researchers study modern people who still live traditionally, far from modern medicine, they often find something surprising. These groups often have detailed knowledge of local plants for treating wounds. Some of their remedies match, almost exactly, what ancient people were doing tens of thousands of years ago. Which means this knowledge, this ancient medicine, was so effective that it never really disappeared. It was simply passed forward, quietly, from one generation to the next, across the entire timeline of the human story. You are the ending of that chain, but somewhere along the way, most of us forgot. We stopped looking at plants and started looking at packaging. We stopped noticing the natural world and started expecting a pharmacy to handle it for us. And that isn't wrong. Modern medicine has saved countless lives. But something was lost too. A connection, a knowledge, a quiet respect for the intelligence built into the human body and the world around it. And yet, deep inside, you still carry pieces of the old way. Notice how you instinctively press on a bleeding cut before you even think about it. Notice how you lick a small wound before you catch yourself. Notice how, when you're hurt, you want to sit down, curl up, and be still. Notice how you feel better when someone you trust checks on you. These aren't habits. These are echoes. Echoes of ancestors who survived because they knew what to do. Echoes of grandmothers who taught daughters, going back further than any written record. Echoes of a species that learned through unimaginable difficulty how to keep itself alive. So the next time you get a small cut and you reach for that bandage without a second thought, take a moment. That simple act connects you to something older than history, older than writing, older than farming, older than almost everything human. Ancient humans didn't have hospitals. They didn't have doctors. They didn't have pharmacies filled with brightly colored boxes. But they had eyes that watched, hands that remembered, minds that learned, and a body designed by millions of years to survive the impossible. If you enjoy exploring why humans think and behave the way they do, consider subscribing, because every week we uncover another piece of the story that made you who you are. And here's a thought to leave you with. Every scar on the human body is a small victory, a record of the moment your body chose to keep going. Your ancestors have been winning that fight for hundreds of thousands of years. The next time you look at an old scar of your own, remember, it isn't just a mark. It's proof that you come from a very long line of survivors.